So the remaining part of the first lecture is who does organization development. The people who do organizational development practitioners come primarily from two areas. The first area consists of OD specialists who are professionals that have specialized and trained in organization development and related areas such as organization behavior, applied social sciences, interpersonal communications, and decision making. So these are some of the basic things that relate with the that what kind of the persons can do the organizational development practitioners. Basically, this course is very important as far uh, uh, as the organizational development is concerned, as previously in the previous slides we discussed. So the thing is, what kind of the people who are basically do organizational development? So all those trained people who has the expertise in the behavioral sciences, who has the expertise in the interpersonal communications, who has the expertise in the decision making. So they are all of them. They are the practitioners. After completing this course, all of you become the organizational development practitioners. I designed this course in such a manner, and I will share you the practical side of this course in such a manner that you will also be the practitioner of the for the organization, and you can do these kind of the activities for the organization, for the development of the organization as well as. Then who does organizational development? There's an internal practitioners and the external practitioners. Internal practitioners are all those people who they may be members of the organization, means that the internal people for of the organization. I will explain the difference between internal practitioners and the change agent. As you people see it, this course is about organizational development and change management. So both are two different things in such manner that both are two different in the manners of the literature, from the literature, sorry. Uh, in a literature, we see that the organizational development is after the since the World War II, and change management literature is a start from almost from 1970s to onward. And you will observe so many papers, you will observe so many articles, you will observe so many case studies on change management. They basically introduced because the Japanese is talking about the Japanese is discussing about continuous improvement. They are talking about the change aspects. They are talking about the re-engineering system. So this re-engineering system uh, started a work on change management literature. In America, people start working on change management and start writing uh, literature on a change management. And the emergence of this is basically come from the Japanese. That's why if we see the books of the change management, I will suggest you some of the books, and as well as I will give you a lot of material on change management as well as, and we also discuss so many things on a change management as well. uh, Basically a Japanese word, kaizen, Kaizen, it's divided in two portion, that Kai is one part and Zen is the next part. Kaizen, K is basically the meaning is change, and Zen is the meaning of always good or good. So this means that this word change management comes from the Japanese language, that change is always good, Kizan. So by Kizan, we mean that change is always good. So in the change management literature, there's talking about change agent. And here they are talking about practitioners. Look at these things, this internal practitioners and external practitioners. So by change agent, we mean that all those individuals who are working in the organization and they can plan, they plan for the organization development, they have the kind of the structure, they can understand the organizational problems and give suggestions to the organization for the betterment of the organization. So they are the change agent. Same as the thing with the internal practitioners. For example, I'm working in any organization, I'm working as assistant branch manager, and I observed that my organization portfolio is decreasing, my organization market share is decreasing. So I would determine the factors, I would find out the factors, which are those factors which basically the key reason for the decline of my market share. So when I assess the all factors, when I'm finding out the all factors, is basically I am doing a work as change agent, or you can say that I'm working as internal practitioners. So this is basically internal practitioners and the change agent. Later on I will explain more about the change management, but this is just an introductory lecture. So we'll discuss, we will cover up this introductory part of the organizational development, then I move off to the change management, and I will share with you the change management models, and I will discuss about what is change management. We will discuss in details what kind of the different theories related with the change management and how these two things work together, or what is the difference between these two things. So I will explain you in a very detail, but let me finish this part of the first lecture. So because if I'm discussing orally and I will not showing you on the screen, so might be this will create confusions for you people. So I would like to complete this part of the lecture. So we will discuss later on the change management. Then external practitioners is come from outside the organization. For example, your organization is working on some project. Like let's suppose you are focusing on a new IT project, but your organization is the kind of the organization that you don't have the expertise in IT field. So you hire IT expert, IT expertise from the external organization or from the external resources. So this is external practitioners. For example, organization hire software developer from the other companies or from the third parties. So this is external practitioners. An organization may have its own team of internal practitioners employed by the organization, human resource department, separate department. Most probably some of the organizations, some of the large organizations have their own practitioners, have their own investment process. For example, a very big company like SpaceX, some other companies like Apple, iPhone, and so many others different international software companies are like we can say that Microsoft. So many, there's so many international companies, they are working that medical side, medical companies, they have their own internal structure, they have their own internal practitioner systems. Why they focusing, or why we are talking about a human resource department, what is the reasons for the human resource department, or what is the reasons for the separate department, is basically reason is that uh, most of the organization is trying to solve their problems by their own people. They don't want to engage external peoples in their organization, because uh, in some of the things, in some of the literature, I studied it and I go through with the books, and you can also go through with the book when I discuss, I shared with you on PDF. So you will read it out, and you will find out these things in the books, that external practitioners somehow exploit the resources, in some word, they misuse your resources, or they cannot ultimately solve your problem. That might be the case, that might be the case. Remember this thing, that might be one of the case, not necessarily with all the cases. That might be the case. So good organization, effective organization design their own human resource department, or a separate department which covers these practitioners roles. which covers their research-oriented activities, which covers their developmental part, which covers their innovation part, which covers their product development part. So they cannot hide the external peoples to help them in a different kind of activities. They do, or their people do these things by their own. Once again, I quote here the example of the Facebook is one of the very organized or systematic organization where they're focused on, extremely focused on the continuous improvement. By this continuous improvements, they still are the pioneer of a social networking system, and they people still like it. If you people remember it, Yahoo Messenger, nowadays no one knows about Yahoo Messenger even. It's in the nowadays in this structure, in this time period, if you can say that, in the last 5 years or in the last 7 years, most of the people don't know about Yahoo Messenger. What does it mean and what is the purpose of Yahoo Messenger? The only reason is that they not work on their continuous improvements. So they ultimately collapse or they ultimately failed. So these are the one of the reasons that organization is focusing on their own human resource department. uh, One of the other aspects of the external practitioners is related with the ethical part. So this is also another chapter we will discuss in a detail, the ethical part of the practitioners and what kind of the issues that is related with the ethical issues of the practitioners or the OD practitioners. So we will discuss it there as well. Then this is also organization culture. Organizational culture is also another important thing. One element of an organization system which a manager needs to understand is the organization culture. The term culture refers to a specific civilization, society, or group and its distinguishing characteristics. Example is Hungry Vulture Awards for top performance. Motto is patience, my foot, I'm gonna kill something. So this is basically you can say that message a managers give to their team members. These are some of the examples. Hungry Vultures and motto is patience my foot is one of the motto of a sales organization. Remember this thing, it's not be the motto of educational organization obviously, where we not as a main objective is to kill someone. But it doesn't mean that a sales profession is focusing on such kind of a thing that they kill someone. But in most of the case, sales professions or sales jobs is mostly like this. I'm not discouraging anyone. If one of you is the salespeople, I also worked as assistant branch manager in one of the marketing firm, in one of the marketing organization, and I worked there as a sales person. So I also worked as this, so I will not discouraging it or I will not let down anyone. But this is one of the themes, this is one of the cultural perspectives related with the organization. So now summarize it, and what does mean of the hungry vulture and what does means of the patience my foot means is, or I'm gonna kill something. Culture is basically, we can say that, is narrate, or culture is basically related with two important things. Let me clear you very important thing. Number one is norms, and second thing is standards. No, or you can say that, sorry, norms and values. Norms are basically objective in nature. By objective in nature, we mean that we cannot change it. You cannot change it. As you can say that a law, the country law, you cannot change the country law. So this is a norms. And the values is basically more of the cases, more of the sense is subjective in nature. By subjective in nature, we mean that our interpretations might be vary from one person to another person. We do the same practice, but our narration, our interpretations may be varied from one person to another person. For example, I would like to quote the one of the example. And here you will see that the hungry vulture comes in it, and the patience my foot comes also in it in this example. For example, one of my colleague worked with me as a sales manager or worked with me as a sales personnel. We both have a target for the year that we both want to achieve 1 million target. Company assigned 1 million target to both of us. I prefer that I would do the selling in such a manner where I can also help them, the customers, as well as, and facilitate them in such a manner to achieve their own objective as well as. That's my objective, but as well as ultimately I have to complete my 1 million target. The other person is achieving 1 million target and not has the kind of the mindset that they serve the customers in the best manner. So in this scenario, most of the time, or some of the time, they do wrong selling. What does it mean, the wrong selling? It means that customers need, let's suppose, product X, but you want to sell them or sell him a product Y, because the reason is that in the product Y, your commission or your profit is more higher than the product X. So this is the kind of the mindset is related with the hungry vulture concept, or is this is a kind of a example which is related with I gonna kill something. This is the related. Now, standards are how we interpret it in my the previous words is that I told you that norms and values is about subjective, and I told you that people interpreting it differently. Target norms is that you have to achieve 1 million target. Both are on aligned, both are in line and work on a target, but approaches were different. So this is your values. This is where your values that vary it in one person and another person. This is basically a difference between norms and values. So what the things determine the culture is basically, you can say that when you're talking about norms and values, so you can further laterly explain it in a more deeper part. Now this look at this thing. Pivotal norms and peripheral norms. Norms essential to accomplishing the organization's objectives are called pivotal norms. That these are the essential for the accomplishing the organizational objective. Peripheral norms that support and contribute to the pivotal norms but are not essential to the organization objectives are called peripheral norms. There are difference between pivotal. There are two different aspects. By pivotal norms, we mean that individuals are focused on the objectivity of the of you can say that of the results. Peripheral norms is more about subjectivity of the results. You can say that. What does the mean of the pivotal norms now? The pivotal norm for me as a teacher is to deliver you a complete lecture. Is as my responsibility, I will deliver you the lecture to understand and facilitate you. So once I delivered the lecture with all that learning outcomes, with all that objectivity, is achieving my pivotal norms. Peripheral norms is that a different kind of a medium I'm using it. For example, I'm using it recording my lectures through the Zoom recorder, and someone is using PPT's voiceover, someone is using Zoom arranged scheduled classes, someone is using Google classrooms. So these are some of the peripheral norms. The main thing is that learning. And if learning is achieved, this means that pivotal norms achieved. Whatever the medium you are using it is basically the peripheral norms. And the ultimate objectives of the individual is to give the quality education. If you delivered a quality education to the people, to the students, then you achieve the pivotal norms. If you are not achieving, or if you're not delivering the quality educations to the individuals, it means that you are not achieving pivotal norms. This is how you can say that. This is the difference between. Another thing is, in a peripheral norms is like dress code, that some people is achieving targets in the organization, but he might or she might wear not a good dress or not follow a proper dress code. So this is a peripheral norms, and the pivotal is that the person is very much learned, the person is very much good in communication, the person is achieving his or her targets. So these are all things is related with the pivotal norms, and the others supporting documents or other supporting acts is related with the peripheral norms. Then before going to the socialization process, I explained some more about here is I will share you in the notes, so you will see in the notes as well. As there are three kind of the people in the organization. Number one is the kind of a person who is conformity. You can say that a person who is conformity. What does the meaning of the conformity when you're talking about culture? Conformity is a kind of a person in the organization who accept all norms and values. So these kind of the persons are come in the category of the conformity. Second person is basically a kind of a person who rejected all norms and values of the organization altogether. So these kind of the persons are rebellion in nature. Third person is basically a kind of a person who is creative individualism or creativity individualistic approach. This is a kind of a person who accept the pivotal norms but reject the peripheral norms. But it doesn't mean the altogether they reject it, but they not more bother about the peripheral norms. Now, I would like to explain it. What does the meaning of these things? Creative individualism or creative individualistic person is basically focused on pivotal norms. What does it mean? This person is more focusing on productivity of the organization. And for this person, peripheral norms, like in our culture there, we are praising the people, we are shaking hands with the people, we are, whenever we are meeting with the peoples on a one day, so we praise them and we say salam to everyone and this and this and blah 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 blah. I'm not saying that this is not good, but I'm not discouraging anyone. I'm not talking about that this is not the kind of the good thing, but this is a good thing in our religion as well as. But we are more give importance to these things rather than we are giving more focus on the productivity of the organization. One of my colleague and one of my persons, when we worked in organization, in a marketing organization, so he's talking about that people is mostly come to the organization and leave the organization without doing anything, without doing a single task in a day. And they come for the organization, they come to the organization and they leave the organization next day, then still they still come to the organization and they leave the organization without doing a single task. This is basically means that they are more focusing on peripheral norms rather than pivotal. Peripheral norms, what does the meaning of the peripheral norms means is that they are now more focusing on that we are signed in the organization, हमारा मीटर लग गया है, हम यूनिवर्सिटी में आ गए हैं या हम ऑफिस में आ गए हैं, हमारी हाजिरी लग गई. Now हम क्या कर रहे हैं, क्या नहीं कर रहे हैं, that is basically related with that. This means that we are not achieving productivity for the organization. So this is the kind of a person, and literature says that, book says that this kind of the persons in the organization do a lot, and organization must respect these kind of the peoples in the organization, that creative individualism. That conformity people is also not contributing because they are all together accepting all the things, is working in the organization, is prevailing in the organization. And rebellion is also a very problematic person. This will create a lot of problems. This abuse substances, this will create a lot of union in the organization. They will create a lot of trouble for the people. They will create a lot of issues for the organization. There are so many things. So the rebellion people is very much problematic, and they create a lot of issues in the organization. So this is how you can say that. If you would like to, I would like to explain also the example of the conformity. I worked in one of the organization where the scheduled leaves was 24, but the people who was working there from the last 10 years, they don't even read out their appointment letters. And appointment letters mentioned that after the completion of 6 months, or I not remember it, or six, or I guess, or 10th months, uh, after completing 6 or 10th months, you are entitled to 24th leaves. So in that organization, if there is a culture that everyone is apply, or everyone is entitled for 12 leaves rather than for the 24 leaves. No one has the courage, no one has the desire to discuss, or no one is least bothered about to see their appointment letter. They don't even see it. One day I personally see it, my appointment letter, and I go through with the appointment letters, and one of the clause I read it, that they mention it, that after the completion of 6 months or after the completion of 10 months, you are entitled to 24th leave. And the next morning, I discuss with my boss, and then I discuss in the meeting as well, as that we are entitled to 24th leave. And afterwards, the that was the history of that organization, that they are starting 24 leaves. Are they giving the 24 leaves? The only reason is that here is the thing is the word conformity, that people accept all norms and values without reading it, or without reading the document. So this is one of the dilemma in our society as well. As I saw so many people who least bother about reading the documents, and this will create a lot of problems and a lot of troubles for the organization culture. So this is also another thing. I will share you the in the notes, where you will find out these things. These three individuals in a detailed, and you can also uh, note down with yourself as well. Then the socialization process is very much clear. Socialization may be defined as a process that adapts implies to the organization culture, new employee expectations, encounter organization culture, adjustment to the cultural norms. So these are all is very much clear to you people, that whenever you are entering to the organization, you are adjusting to the cultural norms, you are encountering to the organization culture, you meet with the peoples, you observe the peoples, you note down the peoples. These are all the things that is the socialization process. Very clear to you, all of you. I think that the you would read it, or you has go through with this the basics of HRM as well. As then model for the organizational development is anticipate need for change, develop the practitioner's client relationship, diagnostic phase, action plans, strategies and techniques, self renewal, monitor and stabilize. These are very important things. The model of the organizational development start from to find out the need for change, anticipate need for the change, that your market share is decreasing. This means that you need anticipate need for change. Next thing is that you enter to the system. By entering to the system, you develop a good relationship, and we can say that a practitioner's client relationship. When a practitioner enters to the organization, or enter to the client, and then they develop a good relationships between them, and they relate them with the peoples. In the previous slides, I discussed you internal practitioner and external practitioners. When you are entering, when you are hiring someone from the external source, this means that you are developing a practitioners and client relationships. So next thing is when a practitioners and client relationships develops, the practitioner is basically diagnosed, our diagnostic phase. They goes to the diagnostic analysis. They do your analysis. They go through with the analysis process. They analyze the shortcomings of the organization. They analyze the weaknesses of the organization. They analyze the shortcomings of the organization. So many things. There are so many things. They diagnose about every single part of the organization, and find out the problem, or find out the problem where actually problems lies in the organization. Then After diagnosing or after diagnostic phase, they do action plans, strategies, and techniques. Action plans is what would be the criteria, what how can we achieve it, how can we develop it. They will plan it, they will technique it, they will work out it. We will discuss it, these things in a detail. There are different chapters basically. Now you are moving on this. We are talking about anticipate need for, this is another chapter, this is single chapter, this is a single chapter. This diagnostic phase is another chapter. Action plans, strategies, and techniques is another chapter. Self renewal, monitor, and stabilize is another chapter. So it means that seeing on this screen, you are seeing is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 chapters basically. So we will discuss in a detail in the chapters when we're discussing it. So I don't want to open up all things in a one slide. So I will give you a knowledge in a slowly manners as well as. Then anticipate need is the manager's perception that equilibrium is somehow in a state of disequilibrium or needs improvements. Organization is basically is a disequilibrium is basically a good organization is always be in disequilibrium. Remember in one thing, it is not related as far as, let me clear you, this is not related with the financial aspect. I'm not talking about financial aspects. I'm talking about operational activities. If organization is an equilibrium, it means that organization is static in nature. If organization is static in nature, as far as operation is concerned, it means that after a certain period of time or after a certain year of time, organization will ultimately collapse. Remember this thing. Remember this thing. I give you example of Nokia. Their operation was in equilibrium. They are not focusing on innovation. They are not working on product inventions. They are not focusing on product development. So that organization was static in nature. That's why they failed miserably. Same is the thing as Pakistan post mall. Pakistan, where the thing is that nowadays they are working on, they are not now operationalize their system. Nowadays they are innovate their operation activities, so they are no more competitive. But in a last 10 years or in last 20 years, if you see that, so their work, their operations was very much in equilibrium, means that they are not developing their process. Now look into this, that disequilibrium may result from competitive, technological, legal, social changes in external environment. So these are the things which force you for the disequilibrium. By disequilibrium means that you are continuously improving your operations. Remember this thing is just a bit difference in the operation as well. Then develop and the developer relationships with the practitioners and a client. Important determinant of the probable success or failure of an OD program. The client is a person or organization that is being assistant, and practitioners enter to the system and they observe the systems and then they discuss it. And there are so many things. There are so many things that you observe it, that you discuss with the people, and you observe about the things that you discuss problems with the people, and so many things. This is how you can say that developing a relationship. Then diagnostic phase is the practitioners and the client begin to gather data about the system. The collection of data is an important activity, providing the organization and the practitioner with a better understanding of client system problems. The diagnosis, client's perspectives may be biased. This is one of the things that a good practitioner, a good OD practitioners has the kind of the expertise in this, that the client to look out that either that client is not biased in their words, biased in their meanings. This is how we can say that a bias means that our sales is decreasing not because of the our system. Our sales is decreasing because customers are not cooperative. This word is basically a bias. Customers are not fooled that they are not purchasing your product anymore. This means that something wrong with your operations. That's why customer is not purchasing your product. So every organization, mostly this is the case with this biasness case with a kind of organization who is closed in nature. All those organization who is close in nature, they has a more tendency is biasness. They're more focusing are mechanistic structure organization, that they are more centralized. They are not accepting the views, accepting the you can say that you can say that accepting the um, viewpoint of the implies. So this is a kind of the organization which is mechanistic. So these are the kind of the perspective, these are the kind of the things which is more related with the biasness. So this can be happened when a practitioner discussing, or when a practitioner is gathering data about the system. So these are the things, these are the one of the element that can be the case where the client perspective might be biased. Then action plan strategies and techniques. Diagnostic phase leads to a series of interventions, activities, or programs aimed at resolving problems and increasing organization effectiveness. These programs may apply such OD techniques as quality management, TQM, job design, role analysis, goal setting, team building, and intergroup development. So these are some of the things that later on, after a diagnostic plan, practitioners can do for the betterment of the organization, in terms of the quality management, in terms of the job designing, in terms of the goal setting. They may design a team, they work with the team, they design a proper team management. So these are all things that they can relate it, and then they develop a strategy and the techniques as well as. So we will discuss it, these things in a very detailed in a chapter. Then self-renewal, monitor and stabilize is the last part, that once an action program is implemented, the final step is to monitor the results and stabilize the desired changes. Each each stage of an OD program needs to be monitored to gain feedback. The system members need to know whether they ought to modify, continue, or discontinue the activities. After doing these all things, as for example, that when you analyze the things, then you do the other aspects. So these are all things that related with this and completed with the in a such manner. So thank you very much.